Hey everyone, Michael Bentley here, and I'd like to show you how to set up Cribble in a Docker environment on your local machine so that you can test out configurations without having to build a server. It's a pretty simple setup. We've got 10 steps here, so without further ado, let's get started. Now, step one is pretty simple. What we've got to do is actually go to docker.com and install Docker. All right, so my notepad will catch up here in a minute, and we'll get started with that. I don't actually want to show you that in the training because you might prefer to install Docker in Linux or maybe on a MacBook. And I installed the Windows version for the demo. So you go get the one that's compatible with your operating system. In fact, I'll type that up here in just a second. But one word of wisdom here, you may, or caution, I guess, not wisdom. You may want to restart your computer, or you may have to restart your computer on this install. I'm a big fan of restarts, especially in Windows world. Let those safety patches apply. Sometimes restart, you find out you've got a serious problem you didn't know you had. So, good restart every now and then. So, a little bit of a warning there, right? Go to docker.com, get the right install guide, follow the guide, get Docker installed on your machine. If you get it going, it looks like you see on the right side here, there's this Docker desktop window I have running. So that's what I see in Windows world. I assume there's a Docker desktop for the other worlds as well. But some command line junkies or Linux fans will be interested in the command lines. And that's not part of this training. I mean, we'll talk a little bit about Docker command line, but all we need to do is pull an image and get it running. That's about all the Docker we're going to do here. But there are, some things to note, differences, that we're just not going to cover. That's step two. That's what we want to do is make sure it's running, right? So one way I did that is I started Docker Desktop. Now that's supposed to start the service, but in my machine, I actually have the service set to manual. So I don't think it's actually going to start just by loading Docker Desktop. I'm going to mention another method here in case you're like me and you want to disable services when they're not in use. You can run services.msc in Windows world, and I'll drag that down here. We'll see as soon as I find it here, Docker desktop service. May have a more, yep, nope, that's it, Docker desktop service. It's a short name. You can see when I highlighted it, start became available. So that means it was not running. And it was not running again because I have it set to manual. The default install sets it to automatic, so you shouldn't really have to do this. You should just be able to run Docker Desktop like you see here, and you'll see down on the left-hand side a green bar. And you can stop the service there, resume it, and pause it, right? So looks like it was also paused there. I went ahead and started there. So I was surely making sure that I didn't have Docker running last time I exited. All right, well, what's step three? Step three is going to be pulling the image of Cribble. And lost my headset. Coming back. I want to pull the Cribble image. The way we're going to do that is drop into a command line. And I even created a little test environment, right? The actual directory called my test environment. So, I was going to get into some Docker file creation later in the demo and show you how you can do some more stuff. So I went ahead and created a directory called my test environment right there, someplace convenient for me. Suggest you'll do the same if you're going to follow along and take the rest of the trainings. But just to begin, we want to pull Docker or Docker pull and the Cribble image. And you notice it says using the default tag latest. Now, you can actually pull different versions of apps this way, and you put the version number after the app name, right? So Again, I suggest creating a working directory and then using docker pull P-U-L-L, the image you want, followed by the version tag. And this could be like 3.0.0. It could be latest, the word latest. Sometimes they just do like app name, and then they make that by default go to latest, redirect to latest. So whether if you remember latest or try a few different things when you go into your Docker pool, it's up to you. I just did Docker pool Crible. Okay. So I'll talk about this. Sometimes you'll see different versions like app latest, right? Or it'll be app colon and then the actual version number, or app / latest. It just depends on where you see this syntax at, what it's going to do. But in almost all cases, it's it's designed to pull the latest image here. If we just say app followed by / in the app, so that's what we do. That actually downloads the latest image of Cribble that you can then execute in Docker. So a way to run those images once you have them basically installed is what we are pulled, right? We pulled it. I consider it kind of like installing the image. So the command to run it is, as you would guess, docker run. But you can give it a lot of switches here. Um, we'll get into those in just a minute, but we'll just copy this command here, basically, and run it now that we've done the pull. We'll throw quotes around it because it went across 2 lines here. I want you to know that's just 1 line. And we'll go enter it now. So run minus P 9000 colon 9000 minus IT Cribble / Crible. All right, so while that runs, I pressed return after all of that, or enter on my keyboard. We'll talk about what this is. So the IT, the P9000, and then obviously docker run. So docker run is the core command that's going to tell it to run an image. You can you can specify a lot of different options like persistent volumes for storage, port numbers. You can tell it whether to run in the foreground or run in the background as a daemon or a process. And basically what we're doing here is saying map port 9000 on my local host to port 9000 in the container and allow that traffic. And then the IT was basically telling it to run in the background. And that's so we're not getting an output right there. What we can do is we can go in the Docker desktop and we can click on the port there 9000, or we could have just opened a Firefox window, right, or a browser window and gone to localhost port 9000 once we get this up and running. And that'll verify that it's up. So that's the problem with running it in the background like I did with that IT switch, is you're not really sure if it's running or not because you don't get any output. So we have to verify that it's running. One way to do that is just go to localhost port 9000 in your favorite browser. All right, so I chose Firefox. There it is. Now we're going to have to log in. All right, the default username and password is admin and admin. It's okay. It's going to make you change it immediately. So, well, almost immediately. We've got to register first, and then we'll change the password. So I'll throw in my email address here and first and last name and accept the license agreement and click on register. When I do that, that's going to register the product for the free version, activate the free version, activate the trial. It says let's go. I love it. But it's also going to make me change the password immediately, like I promised you. So I'll go ahead and put in a super secure password, and I wrote my steps down now a little bit after the fact. Here we're going to register the product at step 7, and step 8 is going to be change your password. And so give me just a minute and I'll catch up in the video. We'll go ahead and change the password. And then, we just want to check the functionality of the app. I'll jump around through some panels, make sure I'm not getting any error messages. First thing we get is a welcome to Cribble Stream. I'll close that. I know quite a bit about it. I don't need the welcome. I encourage you to go through that, however. I jumped over to settings real quick just to show you how it's running on port 9000 inside the container. Monitoring is a great panel. I love it. Shows me how many CPU I have, how much memory I have free, a lot of things in there. But undoubtedly, you'll probably want to add a data source once you get going. And there's plenty to choose from. I'm not going to cover that in this lesson. This is all just about getting it set up. So we've done that, and we verified that it's running. We've registered the product. We should be good to go and configure it now. So what's step 9, you ask? Well, it's got to be profit, right? It's profit. Absolutely. You know what? Let's do one better though. I would say step 9 is if you like this video, you think it'll help somebody else, share the video for me. Right, it's a free video, shows you how to set up a local Docker environment with Crible running in it so that you can learn Crible. And then step 10 can be profit. All right. I really appreciate you watching. You could have done anything with your time, but you watched all the way through the end. And for that, my friend, you are awesome. So if you like us that much, why don't you go ahead and follow us? Right? We're on all the social media, and we'd love to hear any feedback you have about our videos. Appreciate you. Come again.